matchup gets going as Freehold is going to start us off between Method EU and Eclatax.
God, I love Teeming Volcanic Freehold on the Tyrannical setting. Really going to be an arms race to see who can pull the biggest, because there's nothing really holding these teams back at this point.
That's actually, it's a prot race. Arms is the DPS spec.
All right, you're stop that immediately.
Both teams here pulling big, but right off the bat on Eclatax's side, we have a healer down. They're going to get that battle res up, but that is going to cost them that res. Luckily, they're able to survive the pull here. It's still very close.
Okay, Eclatax had a really good dispel in the tank there. He had 3 stacks of the healing debuff, where it reduces his healing intake, but he ended up getting it dispelled. Of course, that is a disease, so Mistweaver monks are able to dispel that off of their tanks.
10% HP,
one heal.
Drop of healing coming through. And that is going to save them on the first pull. But meanwhile, Method EU already onto the first boss here. Both teams here looking like they're getting about the same amount of count. Actually, a little bit more on the side of Method EU. So bigger pull, executed more cleanly, and quicker coming out of Method EU to... not my surprise. I don't know if you found that surprising, Tettles.
I mean, it was just a little bit more clean. Like, so Bazooka on the side of Eclatax wasn't able to get like a ton of damage off Rosalia from Method EU. Was able to pop a spinning crane kick immediately and spin the win. I think that ultimately could just be the differentiating factor there. Method EU not running a rogue though. So we saw this in the Perplex series, the first match of the day. How did you feel about the no rogue run in Freehold?
Yeah, another interesting difference as well is so it's not triple hunter, it's double hunter, 1 DK here. So Method EU has a different answer than Perplexed about this, but both teams agree that the answer is not rogue. Oh, Mira's attacked by Sharkbait there.
I don't hate the DK though. Like, so it is Teeming and Volcanic, so you can make really good use out of that DK, right?
I agree. I think it's got to be about... So Skycap and Crag is not really a boss that's easy to pull a bunch of trash onto because you need to kill trash to spawn him. But the other 3 bosses, I'm really going to be looking for Method EU to capitalize on Death Knight, opening burst with massive pulls into those bosses. Otherwise, I think maybe Perplexed triple hunter strategy might even be better. Eclatax, meanwhile, playing a little bit more of a standard, what we've seen in previous weeks, Freehold composition, playing that rogue, and look for Alex to be vanishing soon and going to do the RP in the rest of the dungeon. Method EU's decided that they'd rather have the higher damage of the other specs, though, instead of the utility that rogue brings.
Again, I don't hate the rogue pick either, especially from the side of Eclatax. Like, they're the 7th seed, right? They're definitely not favored in this matchup. The fact that they're playing something that is a little bit more standard, if they have good practice on this rogue in this dungeon, you see Alex running away to go start that RP. I think this puts them in a good position where they would be able to capitalize on Method EU, maybe going a little bit overly aggressive, be able to capitalize on a mistake. Eclatax going to be downing Sky Captain Crack here momentarily. Alex is off starting the RP, where Method EU... Alex is off starting the RP, where Method EU has already all drank that brew. They're getting ready to gear up for a pull here into the second boss, the council boss here.
Oh, and now is going deep into the dungeon, pulling a bunch of extra stuff.
Gingy is actually running off to the side to start the RP too, but Hunter Camo is a minute CD after it's used, so maybe he melds on the way back?
Or maybe he melds on the way there and feigns on the way back or something. Yeah, well, it's got to be a combination of meld and feign that'll allow him to do this without pulling stuff.
If you look on the frame, he actually just uses Aspect of the Turtle. You can see him off to the side right there. So yeah, he feign deaths off everything right there. That's not bad.
Very cool play there, and you'll see Gingy pretty low on the damage meters this pull, but that is not relevant because Fragments has just demolished the entire pull there. And now they've also gotten that benefit of starting that RP, even though they don't have the rogue.
Exactly. So I think that's actually going to be more time efficient relative to how the pull ends up working out if you are able to get away with it. But it's going to be more dangerous. Basically, this council boss will end up killing itself with the brews. Whenever you get a bad brew, it deals significant damage to the bosses. So if you could get away with your hunter or rogue running off during this boss, it could potentially be of greater benefit than like we've seen with like going on Sky Captain Crag or whatnot, right?
Yeah, there's kind of 2 RPs that you want to go do as well. You want to do the one to start the pig, and then like later you want to come back and actually click on the pig 5 times. We see sometimes the rogues, vanishing off the first 2 bosses to go and do those 2 different RP segments. Whereas I think Method EU are just going to be grabbing that pig. Oh, actually, it looks like Mirez is going on that stealth mission right now to go do that.
Interesting. Okay, so I wonder why. Because like technically Genji could have dropped combat again and went and
Well,
done it
but
himself.
Gingy's meld, I guess Gingy's meld did come back, but Gingy's
He didn't have the
turtle is
turtle.
not
Oh,
available.
Mirrors uses the turtle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so Mirrors uses the turtle. That's actually really smart for them to be able to move around the map in that way. Eclatax is actually playing a Crusher with this boss. I think this is a fairly standard pull.
Crusher, I haven't seen that. Like, we didn't see that out of Method U this time. It's something that sometimes teams do decide to do, yeah.
I mean, it's tyrannical. Like
It does slow down your efficiency on the boss because it zones your melee out of there from time to time. So I think that's the reason that we see some teams choose not to do that. But it's definitely not unreasonable to pull that onto that boss. Meanwhile, Method EU doing something that is completely unreasonable with their damage. Fragments spiking up there to 1,000,000 DPS.
now doing a really good job of maintaining threat, running that Strength of the Warden Major, pairing it with that Marek Fang, allowing him to peak at somewhere in the 350,000 DPS mark, far more than I could ever do.
Yeah, now he's second on damage. He's owning. He's just destroying these damage meters. Method EU, 58% trash count. So now kind of comes the time where we start to see whether or not they're planning to do a kite strategy later.
Do you suspect that they would be? I mean, we've seen teams be very vocal about how oppressively good the kite strategy is, but we saw Perplex Cannonball Barrage the middle pack as opposed to kiting the obelisks earlier in the
I
match
think at
today.
58% count, I expect them to be not kiting, because I expect them, with this low count, I expect them to be grabbing count with Harlan instead, and those are kind of mutually exclusive options.
It is teaming as well. So, like, basically they would have to do one singular pull after Trothak to be able to make up the rest of the count. And at that point, you may as well just kite the obelisks. Or not kite the obelisks. You'd rather play the obelisks and Cannonball Barrage the pack as opposed to kiting the obelisks.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense here on the side of Method
I
EU.
agree.
Meanwhile, Eclatax actually not far behind here either. This wouldn't be the first time that we saw a team...
The double crusher?
Yeah, this double crusher onto Ludwig. Ooh, a lot of bounces coming out there. But Eclatax, yeah, a lot of crushers on their pathing here. Yeah, last time that we were in the NA Cup, we saw, I think it was Complexity Limit losing their first game in a freehold up against BDG. So it's definitely, there's precedent for this map being something where the underdog can easily emerge victorious. You know, I think that Eclatax's time is likely to only be 2 minutes or so shorter than Method EU's.
I would like this double crusher pull significantly more if they were running double hunter. Because
Yeah,
they're able
I
to
think I agree
maintain
with
rapid
that.
reload and more range DPS as opposed to Dirty from Eclatax walking out of melee every single time something happens.
It's definitely a nail-biting situation as a melee DPS to be involved in a pull with a crusher. Looks to me like Method EU have so far avoided all the crushers in the dungeon. Oh, frag!
Eclatax,
Getting bounced
gosh.
around. Eclatax, though, also getting bounced around. Oh my goodness, frag has gotten hit by 2 charges and a shark in the last 10 seconds, but he is okay.
Heroic leaping away from those harpooners, but the harpooners had something to say about it, immediately gripping back. Fortunately enough, this is looking pretty good from Eclatax. They're dealing with this pull. It'll probably end up going down fairly swiftly. You actually see all the mobs standing in that death and decay, basically meaning that the DK is ramping. You look at Dirty on the damage meter. He's sitting at a nice 900k DPS. Here comes the APOC as well.
Yeah, so Eclatax here about a boss fight behind, but a little bit ahead on trash count. Actually doing a great job here of staying relevant in this match.
Yeah, they have definitely practiced this dungeon a significant amount since they are just able to deal with all these pulls in a way. Being able to like set yourself up to pull like this takes just so much time. Method U here is running all the way through this area. You see now Heroic leap up to the spot. Everybody group melds, and they're gearing up to pull Harlan Sweet. I think we are probably right in our suspicion that they're going to Cannonball Barrage everything.
Yeah, looks like they're actually going to be pulling Harlan right on pull with a huge amount of trash. This isn't something that we saw Perplex do, but Perplex didn't have that Unholy Death Knight who benefits from all this trash in the same way that
Yeah, so you do see the turtle, the hunter pet turtle ability coming out, taunting Urgroth on his first Spirit Breaker cast. Everybody dropping pretty low here, but everybody dropping pretty low here, but able to be quickly topped up by Zalia's Way of the Crane. This is So pulling that trash pack is actually, I feel like it may be safer than just playing the 4 obelisks by themselves if you do have that DK.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
it
the
does
way of the
melt
crane
things. It melts things nice and effectively. Yeah, both damage and healing, very good. In comes the Officer Patrol. Not sure if this was intended, but it looks like it's going to be fine for Method EU.
It's
Do
pretty
you still have Urgroth?
scary.
Urgroth shouldn't be getting another Spirit Breaker, though, at this point.
Yeah, the officer
Spider.
actually does a cast called Oiled Blade, and it puts it on your tank. That debuff is fairly deadly, but can be dispelled off as it is a magic effect.
Also,
so
be
you just
spell
wanna-
reflected if you are if you're really on top of your game.
That's kind of scary. I mean, yeah, it definitely could be spell reflected. I don't know if under these circumstances if that's what you'd be trying to do. I mean, maybe.
I know. Look, there's the reflect from now.
Oh,
Coming out.
maybe you're right. Eclatax is going to be down in Trothak here momentarily. Another Crusher has been pulled.
Yes, Eclatax trying to fight all of the Crushers in the dungeon. That's their bonus objective here.
Yeah. Do they get a time advantage if they kill every Crusher in the dungeon?
Yeah, it's an alternate win condition. You either kill all the bosses or all the Crushers, and that stops the timer.
Yeah.
Method of you pulling some more trash here. This should be the last that they need for the enemy forces count. In fact, I don't even think that they need all of these things. I think that just the Ravager cast going through will be sufficient for them.
Ravager cast got stopped by Shockwave there.
Yeah, I think they actually want the mobs to stay alive a little longer so that Frag can build a little bit more damage off of them.
I mean, they also have rapid reload for aspect of the wild resets and stuff like that. Maybe they want them to stay alive a little bit longer. The painful motivation cast also does make the mobs do, what is it, 100% increased damage, so it can be kind of scary if they're actively meleeing your tank while that ability is on them.
They do die very quickly though after that.
Yeah, the painful motivation scales by key level.
Yeah, so
basically
it's
just supposed to be a
percent health damage, but that damage scales up with key level, and since
Yeah.
their health is scaling, the percent it basically double scales with damage with key level.
Yeah, Harlan hits 30%, he casts his loaded dice ability, making himself take increased damage, and now his health is plummeting. Eclatax here has now recently engaged Harlan's Suite.
They're going
But I
to be
think
kiting
it's-
the obelisk, it looks like, on the side of Eclatax. A shame, though, that we are not going to get to see too much of that strategy for them, because Method of You is going to stop the clock here with just 12 minutes and 15 seconds elapsed, taking game 1 in this series.
Oh my
Kinda epic.
goodness. I mean, Method of You, we saw a little slow start for them last week, but they are rip-roaring out of the gates right now with a great Freehold time, taking game number 1 against Eclatax. And Zyra, this is what we want to see. And, you know, when we talk about our expectations for, you know, our number 1 team in Europe right now, they've set the bar. They continue to do so.
And I think there's a ton to talk about with this particular matchup so
Well,
far.
that's
with
great.
The way
So
this
Drat
dungeon
knows.
went. So, I mean, we were already super impressed with the 13-10 time that Perplex put up, but Method EU, they're not going to let them rest on their laurels at all. A minute faster for Method EU in this dungeon, showing why the Unholy DK is powerful. Just the size of the pulls that they're able to pull off with that Unholy DK is pretty nutty.
Are you done?
I'll talk more. I'll talk more later.
Oh, okay.
When we do the replays.
I think a large portion of how they are able to save time too is the utilization of the hunters, like melding and feign deathing, being able to start that pig RP without bringing the rogue for it.
I feel like Perplex did that too. I didn't 100% catch it, but I think that they were using similar techniques to get the same effects with their hunter. But just I think it is just the DK, you know, engine method. You found a really good way to harness that here in this dungeon.
Yep. And if you guys remember, in the last European Cup that we saw from previous season, Method EU started playing some very different compositions. They started playing around with like very off-meta classes. And that's what, as you guys mentioned, kind of reminded me of, where Method EU says, okay, well, we don't have a rogue, so let's see what we're going to be able to do to start Pig RP, to start getting away from some of those mobs. And you just love to be able to start seeing some of those strategies come in, that you're using the more niche abilities from a hunter to do, say, like a rogue's drop on that one. So those are always a great credit to see to these guys. And now, Zyronic, we're ready for you. What else do you have to say to break down the rest of this game?
So I think it's really easy to talk about how insane this run was from Method EU, but I actually want to focus on Eclatax here, because this is a team, this is the first time we're seeing them this year. And based off the way they played, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't see them early on, because this team actually played this dungeon incredibly well. They engaged the boss with 100% trash. We saw that they were gearing up to kite the obelisk, which meant they were going to have a pretty fast time, probably somewhere in the mid-13s range. But I think we touched on this I touched on this on a little bit at the end of last week. You're seeing kind of where the difficulty of the MDI comes into play, because Eclatax, as good as they looked, they were just kind of running an older strategy. They didn't quite adapt to not having a rogue yet, but they played it really well. So I feel like if this is a team that had played in the first cup 4 weekends ago and had been able to ramp up to this cup, we could see an even stronger team now. This could be a team that competes with our top, maybe top 5 or 6 teams. But I think that just because they haven't been able to practice that much leading into this, that this is probably going to be like the top end of what we see from them. But still, with the time that they've put in, I'm incredibly impressed with what they put together here.
Yeah, and those are always the more interesting things when we start seeing some of those 7th, 8th seeds come in and start, playing more competitive and start putting together games like we talked about before the series titles, where, hey, if the leading team makes a mistake, we're going to be there to capitalize on it.
Exactly, and they would have been there to be able to take advantage of that mistake. Dude, the fact that they were gearing up to kite obelisks is wild to me, because since we haven't seen them in previous weekends, you would suspect that they haven't had the time to be able to put forward that focus to be able to learn how to kite the obelisk. It's not easy, by the way. You have to maintain healer threat on those obelisks while the tank understands how to balance the threat, and then the healer has to also figure out how to kite the mobs, like what's the optimal path and where all the pebbles in every single dungeon are and whatnot, to be able to not snap those mobs to them. So the fact that they were gearing up and looked like they were going to be able to do it successfully, big kudos to those guys.
A lot of credit's going to go to them. And, to further capitalize on it, the part of the surprise that we kind of experienced with it in many cases, Stratos, is from seeing some of the other 6th, 7th, 8th place teams from previous cups, where they start putting together some decent strategies to stay in the hunt. But it seems like in many cases they're pulling just not efficiently enough, not effectively enough to always stay consistently in the hunt, to the point where we've had Method EU wipe against some teams and then still bring it back and destroy a team that never wiped at all,
Yeah, and that was not at all what Eclatax looked like in that run. Their run was looking 100% competitive. I think it would have been close to Perplex's time that we saw. Perplex, the number 1 seed, coming into this tournament, number 2 team right now in championship points. Yeah, I think Eclatax's Freehold run there, if they successfully kited obelisks on the last boss, which we didn't fully get to see because the match ended, I think they were probably beating every team that wasn't Perplexed and Method EU on average in that run. So that was wild coming out of Eclatax. I really hope that we get to keep seeing them in this tournament.
Most definitely.
So is chat.
Yeah, so do they as well, for good reason. Dagor is going to be our next game in the series. Do you think there's a little bit of chicken being played right now, Zyra, with map bans?
I don't know. Both Shrine and Siege had some pretty difficult to deal with affixes, so I'm not too surprised that those two are the ones that got banned out here. I think Dagor is probably the easier dungeon to play in terms of between those 3 dungeons, so I'm kind of not surprised that this is the one that's left open. But based off the way that Freehold was played, in what we know about the volatility of Dagor, I think there is a chance that Eclatax could actually take this map. Now, also, I'm a little biased because I want them to win this map. I want to see Method use a Taldazar.
Sure.
But hey, man, they played so well in that Freehold. I want to see if they can do it here too.
I like how you're going. You want them to win so that Method EU's got to show us how they're able to do a 944. Is that right? 944, a Taldazar run?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't Now tease us a couple days before Titles where he's like, what would you guys say if we did a 944 Taldazar run? And it was people were just like, nah, you're kidding. You're trolling us. And they do it.
I think that was in response to something Zamak said, didn't it? Wasn't that what that was in response to? Flame on Twitter.
I think Zamak said something like, there's no way we could do a sub 10 minute, and then Method EU posted that picture. Every single member of Method EU posted a picture. I think Fragnance posted a picture from his phone of his monitor.
I know, it's the worst.
Dude, what are you guys doing?
In the next
He's gotta make
episode,
sure it's like a legit proof.
in the next episode of the Mythic Dungeon International, we teach these top players how to take screenshots of their computers. But first, let's go into round 2 between Method EU and Eclatax as Dagor is ready to go.
And Method EU here, not playing a rogue. I think this might be the first time in the history of World of Warcraft that a team has decided not to bring a rogue here to Dagor. Rogues, of course, so valuable in this dungeon for utility that they bring in this place in particular, and the cannons. And Method EU does not have that.
I was watching my favorite streamer, Dratnos, stream Dagor last night without a rogue, and things did not seem to be going very smoothly once they reached the cannon area due to the ability to be able to tricks of the trade the cannon shots back onto teammates. But right now you actually see the major difference between the two compositions. Method U eliminated every single crab known to mankind on top of the Sand Queen at the very beginning, whereas Eclatax has to keep those crabs up.
And Eclatax has a death
go
through
down.
their cheat death as well. And that's going to be a full team wipe from Eclatax. Oh, what is happening here? Where are they? The mobs are still in combat with them? Some shenanigans, some weird things have gone on here. Okay, no, they're full resetting. All right, I was mistaken there. Method U, though, have already killed the first boss, and they are making their way now into the dungeon here. They will be using those Monolite Skeleton Keys, the blacksmithing item that is available on the Tournament Realm, as they do not have a rogue. And they'll be skipping on through here with their Lightfoots and Shadow Melds momentarily.
Oh, that was a cool move by the Observer there, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Method U is here, fighting the blob. Do you know which awakened mob is down there at the bottom? Is that Urgroth that they skipped doing?
It is. I think it is the spider at the bottom of the dungeon.
Okay. I don't know what it is on the Tournament Realm. I know it can either be the spider or Urgroth down there.
Yeah, it's the spider down there, and Urgroth is up in the cannon section.
Okay,
I believe.
Urgroth. Okay, that makes sense. So Method U here, now playing Blood of the Corruptor. You actually saw those tentacles on a stick get annihilated immediately. Now they're dragging the blood all the way up towards that Jess Hallis area, foregoing any buffs that could have potentially been gotten. Ooh, now look at that. That was actually really good use. Okay, so
that might be a Vengeance Demon Hunter snap as well with double jump.
Exactly, the double jump. Okay, so double jump allows you to get like significantly more vertical with how the jump ends up working out. You can snap a lot of mobs in very poor ways. I've seen it be done very poorly in dungeons like Shrine of the Storm, where mobs will then be stuck in the roof for prolonged periods of time, but now does a very good job of making good use of it. He also uses a Sigil of Silence there to be able to
Mirrors goes down, though. Out comes the B-Res. Life Cocoon active on Zalia to keep him alive. This is really tight, though. Grievous is ticking on players. Gingy goes down. They're going to be resetting Jess Hallis here.
Do you think they meant to pull those mobs that were on the stairs?
I do not know what they meant to do here. I imagine that was not intended, but maybe. Meanwhile, Eclatax, things might be going slightly wrong for Method EU. Things are going extremely wrong for Eclatax. Eclatax have collected 21 deaths and 2% enemy forces count. That is not a good ratio of deaths to enemy forces count for our unfortunate Eclatax team here.
At what point do you go 18?
Yeah, drop it in 2 chests.
Yeah, drop it in 2 chests.
We've all felt that urge.
I've been here before. Dude,
Yes,
they almost got the first pull dead too.
All right, yeah, they're doing it here. They are throwing their bodies at this. Luckily, on the Tournament Realm, auto hammers are available, so they will be able to keep their gear repaired, as durability would almost certainly be an issue here otherwise.
Also, apparently on the Tournament Realm, from what I remember whenever I played last, whenever you die, you only lose 1% durability.
Oh, Bazook taking huge damage here on the side of Eclatax.
One
Are they going
taunt.
to be able to avoid getting their 20-second death? As we all know, fool me 21 times.
Shame on you.
Method EU setting up their CCs once again, and they'll be pulling into Jess Hallis for the second time. They're out of battle reses here, so this is something that they have to execute pretty well. They used a battle res and then still ended up having to reset it last time. So very much not a clean run coming out from Method EU.
I mean, dude, Jess Hallis is... I have seen more deaths to Jess Hallis than I have to any other boss across all MDIs. Like, maybe Volzith is a little bit more dangerous this season than Jess, but something to do with how people are pulling the Jess floor. So they pull him through that side cage, and then whenever he flees, he has the opportunity to pull every C Speaker and the Block Warden. And teams normally just kind of wipe if that occurs, but So we're gonna see how Method U is able to deal with all of this stuff here momentarily.
Yeah, looks like nothing over there unplanned is pulled. A little bit of planned stuff coming in. Yeah, those are the raiders out of the cages, which is part of the plan. And they're going to be pulling in a bunch of trash now. Out goes the Sigil of Flame. The death grips on those casters. Quaking, something they do have to be pretty careful of here. Quaking, a very difficult affix to deal with in Dagor because of how narrow those corridors are.
I have personally died to Quaking on this boss because whenever he stuns you, if you're stacked up with your teammates...
Ah, yes. A timeless classic. Meanwhile, Eclatax, they are working on the boss once again. And some trash with it. A lot of damage coming out. A lot of damage coming out. Somehow they're able to survive.
Fine. Don't worry. Don't
panic. Cheat death not available.
But it is available for our friend now.
Now does have the cheat death available, which is a nice insurance policy to have in this dungeon for sure.
Now Demon. How do you like him? He's actually tanking every single one of those blades. The Jest cast ability. Do you think that that's more advantageous on something like Quaking?
Yeah, so it means that they're not going to have any unfortunate Quaking stacks, and it means that the boss is just going to be reliably positioned in the same spot over and over again, instead of potentially like slightly moving and then having the line of sight get scuffed. So I do like that coming out of it, because when he has Demon Spikes up, he's pretty much immune to physical damage. That's, oh, where's Zalia, though? Zalia goes down. Mira's goes down.
This is real awkward.
I think we may have had a issue where we didn't quite get everybody out of combat into the obelisk.
So somebody was opening the cage with the monolite key, and I suspect that they accidentally pulled that trash pack that was next to them because that door is not open currently.
Oh, no. Now is going to have to try and survive here. Zalia back in there. So they were able to enter the other awakened portal.
Hunter.
Now able to survive here on this Grievous environment without even... Oh, he did pop cheat death. Okay, so that last resort has been used by now. No more cheat death available for him. Meanwhile, on the side of Eclatax, the first boss is down. It took them 21 deaths and 7 minutes to do it, but they will be making their way into the prison now.
Well, according to the time, it took them 9 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah, 9 minutes if you factor in the 2 minutes of death penalty.
So now is playing Gluttony as opposed to Spirit Bomb. How do you actually feel about that? Because we know on Live Realms, a lot of Demon Hunter tanks will enjoy playing that Gluttony build because it gives them significantly better survivability. But in MDI scenarios so far, we've seen a lot of people favoring that Spirit Bomb because it allows for better snap threat and just generally better survivability, survivability damage-wise. But it's less reliable mitigation-wise because they're not going to have what is effectively 100% uptime on their Metamorphosis or Demon Spikes.
Yeah, now is playing a pure turtle build here of his DH. Playing so the goal here, I think, is that, look, as long as I survive on this cannon pull, as long as I survive on the big pull on the beach, it doesn't actually matter how much damage he's doing, right? Because all the damage that they need to do will be done by the cannons, will be done by the Death Knights, depending on which part of the dungeon they're in. So now's only job is grouping mobs effectively and surviving, and that's what his build is optimizing. And look at how many enemies they're pulling here. Oh, look at the size of this. 34% is the amount of trash count they have right now. Out comes the Sigil of Chains into the binding after the Sigil of Silence finished wearing off there.
This is scary.
Watch this enemy forces count. That was 52% of the dungeon.
Okay.
The entire percent of the dungeon.
Okay.
The entire floor done in one pull by Method EU.
If those mobs come out of that Sigil of Chains, the millisecond they get in range of Gingy's going to have 100% of the threat because misdirection doesn't work as well as Trix does in the cannons. So he would have immediately been just gunned down by the flame casters and those marines. So they kept the mobs at the absolute maximum distance that they needed to be for Gingy to not get shot.
Yeah, now we get to the second cannon section. One marine here not cooperating, casting that suppression fire in the back there.
Please start get over here.
They will be using the Sigil of Silence there. Into the Death Grip, into the Chains of Ice.
Binding shot too.
Binding shot down. Once again, Gingy gonna drop out of the cannon and feign death in order to drop some threat. And once you can see all the mobs are running at him. Taunt, though, comes out from now. They also have 2 taunts from Death Knights. So as long as those Death Knights... Yeah, look at that Death Grip coming out as well. Chains of Ice, Taunt. And that is excellent protecting, get down, Mr. President, from Method EU. Making sure that nobody goes and attacks Gingy while he's inside that cannon. Because as you mentioned, Misdirection does not behave like Tricks of the Trade does with the cannons. It is not as effective there.
I mean, if they're able to play the cannons as cleanly as they are here, I guess you don't really need a rogue, right?
They did 52% of the dungeon with that first cannon pull.
Is now standing in that igniter ability on the floor? Okay, never mind. He moves out of it.
Yeah, I don't think he would choose to do that. It does do quite a bit of damage. He is a Demon Hunter. It probably wouldn't kill him, but it would hurt.
That would be kind of weird. I was wondering if he's
mostly it would hurt for no reason as well. Like the only possible benefit would be like popping his null barrier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he trying to like pop his null barrier? Like, what's the point of standing in that? That seems pretty bad.
Yeah, that's the DH reflect. You run and tank some magic damage and you yell, "I'm reflecting." Pretend you're a protection warrior. Night Captain Valerie going to be dying soon here. Of course, the affix active is Fortified rather than Tyrannical, so these bosses not going to take too long for Method EU.
On the side of Eclatax here, they have engaged Jess Hallis, have phased him as well. It looks like they have some of those raiders that are on top of the boss. They do drop the D&D here. All this stuff should be momentarily dying. Everything's looking okay for them at this point, but they are
Eclatax's Jess Hallis is looking better than Method U's first one did. Method U, of course, did have to reset that boss, but Eclatax have avoided collecting any further deaths here after collecting 21 in the first 5 minutes of the dungeon. So they're looking clean. They looked really clean in that Freehold. It was really just the beach pull kind of farmed them for a little while.
Dude, they were almost... They literally almost killed the beach pull the first time they did it.
Yeah, that's how these things go, because on the first time you have your Bloodlust, you have your Army of the Dead, you have your Cheat Death on the side of your Demon Hunter and their meta cooldown. You wipe and you try again, and you're just trying to do it without all that stuff, and it's a very easy recipe for disaster from there. Cannon shots coming out from Method EU as they do the final pack here. They're now at 100%. Wait, they're at 100% trash count, but they do still have 2 obelisks here, so they went a little bit over count. Not going to be the end of the world. But it is a slight inefficiency in their pathing this time. We've got Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes, and Voidweaver Malthier coming out to attack Method EU while they're fighting the last boss. Not a tough combination with access to that Hunter. Hunter can, of course, taunt every Urgroth, Spirit Breaker. They do have to stand in his Dark Fury.
Yeah. You have to like dodge. You have to manually dodge the cannons, and you have to stand in like the first Dark Fury, which if you get overlapped with that, with that ability from Korgus, then you could quickly go down. But Zalia, with his Way of the Crane, is able to keep everybody kind of propped up. Both of the Death Knights do have access to that anti-magic spell. Gingy does have that turtle if he believes that he would need it. If he thought he was going to die to the Dark Fury or something. But Method, everybody looking pretty good. Now
gets hit by the he gets hit by the cross ignition, I think.
Honestly, not even close.
He cleverly selected the Demon Hunter class at the start of this run, so does not have to worry about those sorts of things. No, he's not stunned.
Okay. He got really close on.
He got very close, but yeah, when you get stunned, you run out of that. That Heartstopper Venom depletes a lot more quickly than it is right now for him.
Looks like Trouble in Paradise for Eclatax after their pretty good Jess Hallis pull. Looks like they've wiped to something. I wasn't looking.
There's
but
a Filtrat Lure
down.
there.
Now just went down there. What happened?
I'm not 100% sure, but a Battle Res was available and used by Method EU. They are now out of that resource. Grievous stacks on everybody, though. Zalia's going to have to try and get everybody back topped. And I believe he's a little bit low on mana. We can't actually see his mana bar because of that Heartstopper Venom bar overtaking it. But this is the point in the fight where often Mistweavers are out of that resource. He is able to top everybody up, though, and everybody able to help him out, top themselves up.
Tanking the boss here is so scary with Quaking, too.
Yes, it is.
Oh, goodness. All right, everybody piles on in. Overseer Korgus down to 3%, 2%, 1%, and they'll be going down, and Method EU will be taking the series 2-0.
That's right, Method EU just showing their strength in a very tightly jam-packed tightly jam-packed Dagor onto that one. And, Quaking is constantly a pain, but being able to see them execute there, especially on the last boss, Cyro, making sure they're min-max their position